How does it look?
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. It really is a nice look. And again, did you feel like you hear things differently at all?
Yeah, I heard a lot more of where there's some notes and some rhythms, and where it wasn't totally meshing. So
yeah, and especially with music that's with music that has different types of melody lines going on at the same time. You know, you'll mouth the words of one of the parts. And as soon as you start doing that, you probably don't have any chance of hearing the other part because you're so focused on that one part. Now, we as conductors obviously have to change our focus. You know, you can't hear everything that's going on equally well at the same time. So it's not to say that you're not doing that anyway, kind of focusing here and focusing there. But to not mouth the words or sing along, yeah, you're gonna be able to. You know, if something does go over here, you're gonna hear it. I think easier than if you were doing that, doing the mouthing. So good for you. It's something to think about. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do one other thing. As a conductor, generally you want to have the focus in just one area, and that's here as far as pulse is concerned. And I do this, I think a lot of us do this to one extent or another, and that is some other part of the body starts to kind of keep the beat along with this area. And for a lot of us it tends to be the knees wanting to bend just a little bit. And it's not a habit for you where it's not every beat, but it's occasionally.
Oh, I've never.
Yeah, we don't. It's just the kind of thing we don't notice. So just now focus on it. Now forget about whether you mouth the words or not. Okay? Now I only want to think of one thing at a time. So forget about the word mouthing. If you mouth the words now, we don't care.
Okay.
But now just start conducting again, and just focus on what are my knees doing, and it's not that a bend of the knee is a bad thing in and of itself, but if it is an occasional habit that takes away from the focus of the hand and where the gesture should be showing that ictus, then it can be a little bit confusing for a choir if the body starts to get too much up and down apart from this. So
okay.
That's your focus now.
Okay. I felt it right away.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I did it right away when I wanted to bring them in with some measures.
And it's at first when you try to take that out of the equation, you'll feel like you're in a straitjacket.
A little bit.
At least I do. When I was dealing with that issue, I felt like, oh my goodness, I can't be expressive anymore. It felt like I was taking something out of my body that I needed to have. So it's not that you want to take the vitality out of your body, and you didn't. But it may feel like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, what it usually does is it frees you up to think, okay, now what can I do with this thing to really make it? So the other little thing you might want to think about is This is pretty typical too. In fact, I've seen some professional level conductors that do this and do it very successfully. And this is sort of a, perhaps my philosophy versus other people's philosophy kind of a thing. There's a tendency for some people the pulse happens as they lift off from it, rather than as they arrive at it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to feel as much as possible that gravity is at work for me. Boom, boom, and that the beat happens right there. Now some people, in fact, we sang for one very successful conductor when I was in grad school, it was professional symphony, and his beat was essentially up here. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4. He was coming off, like that, and it worked for him. I never talked to an orchestra member, and maybe they were going, "What's he doing? We just try to play without looking at him." Who knows? But there's just a tiniest bit of sense of that for you that there's a little delay at the bottom, and then the beat happens. So if you just think of slapping a table, just let gravity work for you. So it's just a little something maybe to add to the mix.
A little more weight.
A little weightier feel to the gesture, yeah. And then that really can show up vital.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, that looks great. And if you ever feel like you're getting into that again, sometimes the hand gets involved in it, not necessarily for you, but sometimes we do that, We do get a little hitch in our. So if you just think, you might limit yourself to just, okay, the wrist isn't going to move at all this time. Not that you want to keep the wrist stationary all the time, but for a piece like this, it doesn't have to move a lot. Yeah, oh man. I really would want to sing in your choir. Yeah, that's terrific. Yeah, wonderful.
Super.
Terrific, thank you so much.